Here we are, folks. The episode that's finally going to be a huge turning point and furthermore, a ladder to the next exciting adventure of Rudeus Grey Rat. And they did this episode in a manner that I think was pretty damn good. This might be my favorite episode so far out of the four we have received. Not just because of the story, but just the way it flows as well. I'm really big into character development and all of those things, which I know apparently a lot of the fans of this show aren't because everybody's bitching about it, but who cares? Because it's so freaking good. And let's just talk about it. Starts in the beginning with Rudeus and Sarah and Counter Arrow all having drinks at the bar because Rudeus has been doing a lot of adventures with them and consistently going ever since, Sarah has been saved by him and she's getting really attached to him. And you can kind of tell just by the way she's looking at him and her mannerisms. And if you couldn't tell that at the end of the last episode. So they're kind of talking about their lives and how her father was a hunter and how Rudeus, his father was a warrior, a fighter in a group. And then he starts talking about Roxy. And of course, Sarah just kind of, blows it off after she finds out that she's a woman and just gets kind of sad about it. But that's expected. A little jealousy, from a little young love thing going on. And so she asks Rudeus, after showing him her dagger that she has, because she knows that he's a little bit of a dagger that's broken and she needs a new one. So she asks Rudeus the next day to go out and help her pick one out. And of course he says yes, not even really thinking about it, but it's a date. So they do the nice little opening monologue with the music and they're walking around having a good time. They find a dagger, and right after that we get to the bar again where Rudeus and Sarah are having drinks and just kind of chit-chatting and talking about maybe her breastplate too and how it's getting too tight now. And she's coming off a little bit onto him and she's getting closer and she leans her head on him, clearly making moves, right? I mean, she has had a few drinks and she's talking about how she's more comfortable drinking around Rudeus because he's strong and she can trust him, like a good male figure. And while she's doing that, Rudeus is like second guessing putting his arm around her. He doesn't know if he should or not. And right before he can do that, he's like trying to strategize this and he's thinking about what would Paul do? Always what would Paul do? So while he's kind of thinking about that, Sarah's got this nice little cute look on her face, kind of like zoned out in the distance. You can tell she's had a couple too many drinks, more than likely. But Rudeus offers to take her back to her place, but she counter offers with him taking her to his place. So they get back to his place. He lights a candle, offers her a drink, common courtesy. And right before then, she's like, I'd probably be dead if you didn't save me. So just take me. So we get to the scene where, Rudeus is starting to make out with Sarah and strip her down, and he's feeling up her legs, and they're really getting into it until the moment happens, the moment of the arc. Rudeus cannot get it up. He can't get it up. He is having troubles and he doesn't understand why. He doesn't know why it's happening. He's thought his body's fucking weird and he hasn't understood why. And we'll delve into that a little bit here coming up. But while Rudeus is kind of freaking out about it, obviously Sarah is taking this personally, and she kind of just gets up and pretty much, tries to blow it off, saying like, I didn't like you anyways. I was an obligation and you're the worst, and just leaves. Now, obviously, Rudeus wanted to have intentions to do it, but with his own mental health right now after Eris leaving and everything going on, it's just not working. So after that, Rudeus is at the bar and he is drinking. He is going completely ham on the booze. And while all of that is happening, we get our buddy over here, Soldat, who is, always harassing Rudeus and everything. And Rudeus has finally just had enough. So he gets up and he's just beating the living rat's ass out of Soldat. Like, we're talking, like, not like he's gonna die or anything. Kind of what he did to Paul. Very reminiscent of Paul. And that's kind of a thing that goes along with it. But he's beating him up, talking about what's so bad about trying to, have people like you and just build up a reputation and try to be happy like he was before. And you get this nice scene of blood, like blood splatters out of his face. And so right after that, everything's all said and done, and I think he kind of learns to respect Rudeus more for finally breaking out of this like fake shell that he's been in this whole time. And so they go and sit down and talk about it, and the fact that he's depressed and he needs to, just address what is happening in his life. So he tells him pretty much the story about how, he had sex with Eris and it was their first times, and then she left. So he's got abandonment issues. So, what's the first thing you want to do in that situation to help somebody out and try to fix it? Go to the district with the prostitutes, of course, So they are experts, so this is the way to try to see if we can almost do like a psychiatrist thing going on. And we get there and we see all the women in the district itself, and they all look very nice and pleasant, but one specifically has their eye on Rudeus, and that would be Elise. And we find out that she's actually the sister of a girl that Rudeus, I can't remember if it was last episode or the one before, where he heals her kneecap. I want to say it's the last one, but he heals her kneecap when she falls down. And so obviously he didn't ask for anything in return, so she is just loves the fact about this. And so she tells him, she's gonna do her best to bring him to pleasure and hopefully be able to do the job for him. And he's a little nervous and he's having a couple drinks, and she strips, and we don't get to see much after that. However, it didn't work out. They tried a lot of things, and of course Rudeus is stressed and he's looking more depressed than ever. But she comes to the conclusion that he's just afraid of women, which makes sense considering, he trusted one and she let him down. And the worst part is not necessarily the fact that she let him down, but I'll drive this straight through your heads. The fact that she's just bad at communication, and this whole thing could have been just totally avoided. But where's the growth and where's everything with that if that would have happened? So with that happening, we have Soldat telling him, here's what I'm going to tell you, kid. You're going to drink your heart's content until you want to pass out. So that's what they do. They drink until they're passed out at the bar table at the brothel. And then the owner wakes them up and they start to leave. And of course, Elise stayed the whole time. Sweetheart, real sweetheart. And Soldat starts giving like this metaphor about try not to hurry when you go into Labyrinth, because the deeper you go, the stronger the monsters are, and sometimes they work together. So he likes to try to see what's going on each level and work your way to it. And of course, Rudeus is drunk and just making an ass out of himself and everything that he says. And he almost is like, Sarah don't want me. She's just did it for, an obligation. And the way that Soldat thinks about it is, no, I think she likes you, dude. And this is where Rudeus really gets a nice royal reality check fuck up in this episode. And he's talking about, even if he refuses a bratty girl like that, shopping and eating together is just stupid. And why would I want to do all that stuff? And of course, Soldat's telling him to stop, because right behind him is Sarah, and she is not in the best state, because, well, she's with, name slip. She's with Suzanne. And of course, she probably wanted to apologize for Rudeus, what happened the night before and everything, but Rudeus just totally made an ass of himself. Sarah slaps him, cries, tells him he's the absolute worst, and drops the dagger that they purchased together on his knee, or on the ground next to his feet. And Suzanne tells him that was too much, and they leave. And for Sarah's arc, you won't hear from her realistically for a while. And we see the dagger at his feet, and Soledad's like, well, do we need to, maybe we should go back to your dad and kind of just figure shit out. But we know that Paul is like a continent away right now. He's very far away. And so he asked Rudeus to go to this dungeon that is literally by the Duchy of Neris. And Rudeus is confused because he thought he hated him and he didn't really, feel that. But obviously, as almost a father figure himself, very reminiscent to Paul, as he has kind of stated before, tells me he doesn't hate him now because he knows what he's really like. And this is a new way to get to what we're going to get to. And I'm very excited because this is such a good story. Oh my gosh, it makes me so happy. And I know it's gonna suck. I know the rumors are that we're going to get another Eris film before Core 2 starts in next April. And we're only 3 episodes out of the 12 of the season. I'm really jumping ahead, but very exciting stuff. After the credits, we get a scene that made me extremely happy. We see these two guys at a guild just kind of talking about this mage they've seen around lately. And of course, all the things that Rudeus has done have finally sort of paid off, because they talk about Rudeus the Quagmire. And who would we see sitting at a bench right across from these guys? No one else than, I'm going to butcher this name because I always have, but Elenice, well, yeah, elf mommy. She's at the table, ears all perked up, and she comes up to them and tells them, tell me more about this Rudeus, and, offers them sexual pleasure if they can tell her more about him, which is something that's kind of delved a tiny bit into from what I remember in the anime, but not like hugely. And I don't want to spoil it. However, it is something to do with a curse, and eventually we could talk about it. Maybe I'll do a sub video on it because it's actually really fascinating and the whole story's great. But they kind of tell her some more information, and she's finally like, yes, finally, Rudeus, I found you. We gotta go save mommy. And that's the end of the episode. Like I said, this was probably my favorite episode. The animation even seemed a little more crisp and clean. I think as it goes along, it's going to get better. Like I said, there's a new staff, new director. They're doing the best they can, and I think it looks great. I mean, it looks like Core 2 Season 1, which was still above average, but not as good as the first part. And you got to kind of expect that from a series that needs to top off like this. And with all the hate and backlash this type of series gets out in the West, it is what it is. But who gives a shit about the West? Overall, great episode. Very much enjoyed it, and I'm so much looking forward to next week. You have no idea. So if anybody has any comments or wants to even talk about this episode, leave them down below here. I'll read all my comments, have a little conversation. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. And if you're feeling real generous, hit that subscribe button. It means a lot. I upload 2 seasonals this season right now, and I do just kind of a random video of just kind of what I've watched and talk about recommendations once a week. And that's that. So this has been Squids, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.